Part 1: The Quiet Town. The town of Oak Ridge was a quiet place, nestled between dense forests and a small mountain range. Its residents lived simple lives, far removed from the chaos of the big city. Life was peaceful, almost monotonous, except for the occasional stories of strange sounds in the woods, which everyone dismissed as old folklore. Mark, a biology student, was one of the few who didn't entirely ignore these tales. He had just returned from the city to visit his family in Oak Ridge. His father, an avid amateur researcher, was well known for closely studying the nature surrounding the town. That evening, Mark sat with him at the kitchen table where old maps and notes lay scattered. "I'm telling you, Mark," his father began, spreading out a crumpled map, "there's something up north in those woods. People are talking about tracks too big for any normal animal. Maybe a new bear species or something we haven't discovered yet." Mark chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "Maybe you should read fewer books about cryptids, Dad." "Laugh all you want," his father replied. "But something isn't right. Yesterday, I found this track." He pulled out a photo showing a massive footprint in the mud. It was far larger than any bear track Mark had ever seen, with a peculiar shape, almost like a three-toed impression. Mark was impressed but didn't let it show. That could be anything. Maybe just a prank by some kids? "That's what I thought too, until I saw the claw marks on the trees," his father said gravely. A village and a missing family. The next day, Mark decided to go for a walk. The air was crisp, and the forests surrounding the town seemed peaceful. He found it hard to believe anything unusual was happening here. But as he stopped at a gas station on the outskirts of town, he overheard two men whispering. "Did you hear? The Grimm family from that village up north has been missing for days. Maybe they just left?" "No, their car's still there, and the front door was wide open. No signs of a struggle, but it's just weird." Mark frowned but stayed quiet. The small village they were talking about was Pine Hollow, a secluded settlement where his mother's family lived. His aunt, uncle, and cousin resided there, though he hadn't spoken to them in years. The decision. That evening, Mark told his mother what he had heard. She grew pale. "Pine Hollow? My sister hasn't called in days." Mark decided to drive to Pine Hollow to check on the family, easing his mother's worries. The road to the village was long, winding through narrow paths flanked by towering trees. Darkness fell quickly, and the twilight cast eerie shadows among the branches. When Mark finally arrived in Pine Hollow, the silence struck him immediately. No birds, no dogs barking, just the wind whispering through the empty streets. He stopped in front of his aunt's house. The door was indeed wide open, just as the men at the gas station had said. Mark called out, but no one answered. The house was abandoned, yet the plates on the table and the half-full coffee pot suggested the family had only recently been there. A discovery that raises questions. In the backyard, Mark found something that sent chills down his spine. Deep scratches on the wooden porch, as if made by enormous claws. He knelt to examine them when he heard a faint rustling from the forest. There was nothing visible, but he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Quickly, he returned to his car, but as he prepared to leave, he noticed something in the rearview mirror. A strange trail in the mud leading from the forest to the house. It was large, three-toed, just like the one in his father's photo. To be continued in part 2. The tension builds as Mark investigates further, uncovering secrets hidden in the woods. Soon, he realizes that what's lurking out there is far more dangerous than he could have imagined.